I remember the clicking of heels on the auditorium's linoleum stage. June heat pressed against the glass windows, and the air in the gym buzzed with parents shifting in their seats, searching for their own children in the rows of blue gowns. It was graduation at Franklin High in East LA, the kind of event where the future hovered above us, like the haze outside, thick, impenetrable, full of uncertainty. My name was called, and I walked, heart humming, chin up, palms sweating. I'd been selected to give a short valedictory speech, not because I had the highest GPA, but because I volunteered when no one else would. My fingers gripped the index cards. I unfolded them beside the aluminum microphone stand. The echo from the speakers came a split second before my own voice. I want to talk about dreams, I started, feeling the weight of every eyeball, especially my mother's stern gaze and my Uncle Tony's sideways smirk from their cramped row. I'd rehearse the words, breathing life into the rehearsed optimism. Dreams aren't always loud. Sometimes they hum quietly in the background, waiting for us to listen. Someone coughed. The faculty member tapped his watch, but I pressed on. I have this dream to make instruments, guitars that sing, violins with voices, to shape wood so that other people can make music. Luthier, I tell people, and they laugh. I smiled, a tempting connection. But I think the world needs more builders and fewer critics. From somewhere to my right, Enrique Mendoza, my cousin, murmured, "Nobody plays guitars anymore, bro." Smatters of laughter. I heard it, even under the microphone's faint whine. One of the guidance counselors behind me cleared her throat. I hesitated. "Not everyone will see your dream," I finished, my cheeks burning. "But if it matters to you, that's enough." I stepped down, cards trembling in my fist. The applause was perfunctory, loudest from the adults, subdued from my classmates. The principal avoided my eye. Outside, on the baking concrete, my mother hugged me tight and whispered, "It's time you thought about college seriously. No more distractions, Alejandro." Uncle Tony leaned in with that sly half grin, his arm heavy around my shoulder. "You want to waste your hands making toys? You're too smart for that. There's money in mechanics, not in guitars." Later, my cousins would replay the speech on their phones. They'd make jokes, mocking my luthier dream, mimicking the Spanish accent I was learning to flatten out. At family barbecues, I became the punchline, guitar man. My little sister Carmen gave me knowing looks, always kind, but there was no sanctuary, not in the house with its radio-thrumming banda on weekends, not at church, not even at my part-time job in a strip mall hardware store. If humiliation had a classroom, my family was the teacher. They did it with a tough love that stung, not out of malice but of fear, wanting me to graft onto the American story without the risk. I worked anyway, saved every tip from hardware customers, spent afternoons scavenging for scraps, maple from busted furniture, rosewood handles from yard sale tools. I whittled necks and bridges behind our apartment, sanding until my fingertips blistered. At night, I watched YouTube videos, pausing every step to write instructions. Using my broken English to post questions to strangers in forums. When I went to Santa Monica College, it was for general studies, but I snuck away on weekends to Melrose to peek through repair shop windows, nose pressed to the glass. I watched luthiers behind their benches, shavings curling in the lamplight. If I stood long enough, sometimes one would ask me inside for an errand or to sweep up, and I watched with the focus of a starving animal. My classmates wore university hoodies and carried on about business degrees. I felt like a ghost there, but transparent. My mother brought home application forms for warehouse jobs, sliding them into my backpack. Uncle Tony lined up interviews with his buddies in HVAC. None of it stuck. The first guitar I finished was ugly. Its wood was patchy, the joints uneven, but it sounded, miraculously, almost real. I stared at it for hours, plucking the same chord, letting it vibrate through my bones. Carmen was the only one to notice. "It doesn't matter if they get it," she said, fingers tracing the rough lacquer. "It's yours." But the years that followed blurred into a constant struggle. If patience is made of 1,000 missed chances, then mine was tested. The world didn't open to me. No magical offer, no viral moment, just more grinding. I took shifts at a car wash. I lost relationships over my evenings spent sanding. My refusal to compromise. I applied to luthier programs back east, in Vermont, then Canada. Finances shut every door. Every job interview I pretended indifference, but inside, humiliation weighed my spine down. Family dinners became interrogations. "So, maestro, you fix anyone's ukulele this week?" Tony would laugh. "Still helping Jimi Hendrix from the grave?" Even good-natured Carmen would wince. Some friends got tech jobs, bought cars, started investing. I learned to smile and shrink, to hover around the edge of rooms. But I didn't stop building. Through word of mouth, a friend's uncle needed a guitar neck replaced. Another friend's church wanted a violin repaired. Slowly, my hands found their own rhythm, and small checks, $30, $40, slipped into my pocket. One night, I got a call from an old college friend, Arturo, who'd landed a job at a local studio. They needed someone to repair an old 1930s art top for a session musician. It was a 3-day job, paid almost nothing, but I took the bus across LA with my battered toolbox and my courage folded small in my breast pocket. The studio was old, blue-green walls lined with platinum records, the air thick with the ghost of cigarette smoke and ambition. I sat cross-legged on the floor, the old guitar against my knees, carefully aligning the warped top, replacing frets with trembling hands. When I finished, the musician, a gentle-boned woman with hair in thick braids, picked it up and played 3 slow, haunting notes. The sound wrapped around us, full and resonant, filling the silence like hope. She asked me, "Did you make this whole thing?" I shook my head. "Just patched it up." "You have good hands, Alejandro." She gave me her card. By autumn, I was hustling repair gigs for session musicians, building my name in invisible ways. They didn't care about my accent or the fact that I didn't have a pedigree. Only that their instruments came back better. But I couldn't tell my family. When I came home, it was still rent past due and little Carmen's broken sneakers. My mother's hands roughening as she took extra hospital shifts. My successes didn't look like success to them. By my mid-20s, I'd saved enough to rent a tiny workspace behind a laundromat near MacArthur Park. It was little more than a closet, one single window rimmed with dirt. The steady thrum of dryers and washing machines in the bones of the place. I sanded and glued and finished pieces in between other gigs. Once a week, I'd walk the finished guitars a mile to a music shop for consignment. Sometimes they sold. Mostly, they didn't. I learned patience. I learned humiliation all over again, each time someone turned up their nose at my guitars. Too heavy, too plain-looking, not enough resonance in the body. I tried harder, ruined plenty of wood. Started over. I learned the names of different finish oils, memorized how heat and humidity could crack a soundboard. I learned which cafes had the cheapest coffee and which park benches the warmest sunlight, for when I needed a break from the glue fumes and my own doubts. But the day came, I wouldn't forget, when everything shifted. It wasn't sudden, just a trickle. One of my instruments ended up in the hands of an up-and-coming artist named Micah, whose single went viral. She posted a video holding my guitar, the unique pattern in the wood visible, the worn logo on the headstock, made by Alejandro Paredes, L.A. I woke up the next morning to 30 emails, then 100. Requests for custom builds, repairs, consultations, industry people, small labels, session players. Orders outnumbered my inventory. I barely slept, working 12-hour days, fingers cracked and sore. I took a chance, investing in better raw wood, higher-grade tools. One step at a time, my name started to circulate. The musician circuits talked. Critics in small blogs picked up the story. Someone asked, a national magazine wanted an interview. There was a photo shoot in my shop, my hands cupped around a spruce top, the unfinished body gleaming in the mid-morning light. I wore borrowed jeans, unable to hide my nerves from the photographer. A year later, Micah performed on TV, a late-night slot, using one of my guitars. She smiled into the camera. I'd like to thank Alejandro Paredes for making this beautiful instrument, LA made. The next day, I called my mother. She answered, voice rushed and tired. Mama, can you come to my shop on Saturday? Bring Tony, bring everyone. I couldn't keep the hope from my voice. She hesitated. What is it? Are you in trouble? No, please, just come at noon. I want to show you something. When Saturday arrived, I swept the shop 3 times, brushed every surface, arranged half-finished pieces on the wall. The floors were littered with wood shavings, the air thick with lemon oil and varnish. I wore my best shirt, one that didn't show the glue stains. At 11:48, the bell above the shop door jingled. My mother ducked inside first, her nurse's scrubs freshly ironed, Carmen at her heels. Tony appeared right after, his silver mustache trimmed. Flanked by cousins Enrique and Rosa, the rest of them filed in as if cautious the floor would collapse under their combined skepticism. The place was tight, a family of 8 squeezed between guitar racks, benches cluttered with tools, the humming dryers on the other side of the wall. Tony whistled and poked at a finished neck. So, this is the empire, huh? I took a deep breath, palms sweating against my thighs. Wait here a second, I said, disappearing into the back room. My heart rattled, but I was steady as I brought out a hard case. I laid it on the counter, undid the latches, and lifted the lid. Inside was one of my latest guitars, its body shimmering with a thin satin sheen. The grain was striped evenly, the rosette inlaid by hand. I ran one finger along the fretboard. The sound it made, a faint, echoing chord filled the space. Mama, I said quietly, watch this. I turned on the old TV I kept mounted to the wall. I'd queued up the late-night performance. The video played. Micah, visible stage right, took her seat under the spotlights. She introduced the song, thanked the makers of her guitar, named me. My mother gasped. My instrument, I said softly, on national television. Jaws slackened. Even Tony's arms dropped to his side.